Seth.
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay. Now
All
tell
right.
me, where are you on your couch? Where are you?
Nope, I'm in bed. There's my pillow.
Dude, I love it.
You know,
Hi, so let me just do a brief intro. Hi, everybody. My name is Ben. Welcome to Sleeping with Ben. This is basically a chat show where I'm going to bring on guests like our great guest Seth Davis here to talk about interesting subjects. Um, so as you see, I have my beanie sleeper on. I have my jammies. It's right in the afternoon, so of course I'm going to take a nap. That's what we do nowadays. So Seth, can I have you do a little introduction and tell people about what you do? And yeah, just take it away.
sure. Yep. So I'm Seth Davis. I'm an adult sleep coach, and I own a company called Sleepably. So basically, I work with adults who are having insomnia and other related sleep issues. I help them to, kind of do a drug-free approach so they can get away from the sleeping pills and just sleep better naturally. So a lot of it comes down to just behaviors and routines and lifestyles and things like that. So that's what we work on together. And then I work with two pediatric sleep consultants who work with parents to help their children sleep better as well. So we're trying to, help people of all ages get better sleep, basically.
Um, so let me ask you this: How I've heard of like life coaches and I've heard of business coaches. Did you invent sleep coach? Is that something you did?
I wish I could take credit for it, but no. No, basically, it started out of me having insomnia myself and wanting to figure out how to solve it. So, I did a quick Google search just to see if there was such a thing as an adult sleep coach, and it turns out there was. It's still a relatively new concept. But I decided that rather than hire somebody to sleep coach me, that I would, spend that money, become a sleep coach, and then, kind of solve my own problems and create a business out of it as well. So it's not a new thing, but it's still relatively new overall.
Yeah, I mean, until I met you, I didn't even know this was a thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I've had insomnia for many years. I was taking Ambien for a long time,
Hmm.
but it's really true. The things you do when you're on Ambien is insane. I mean, I woke up one morning and an entire chicken was gone out of my fridge. I'm,
That
it's
should be
just
enough.
one of those things. I'm sure people who are watching will attest to the same thing. So, yeah, insomnia is not good. So, one of the reasons I brought you here is I heard of something called coronasomnia.
Hmm.
And what I'm hoping that you can do is kind of explain to me what is coronasomnia? How is it different from, I guess, regular insomnia?
Hmm.
And are there different, maybe, um, techniques you show people who are suffering from one or the other?
Sure.
So I'll,
Yeah, I mean, so basically, coronasomnia, it's a clever name, and basically, a lot of people over the past year, 2020 was just crazy with the pandemic and everything. And so people who, a lot of people who have never had sleep issues, never had insomnia, all of a sudden started to have, pretty severe sleep issues. And then, some people who have had kind of mild sleep issues before, those got worse and became insomnia. So it's sort of a term that came about just because, all of a sudden people were having this insomnia during the past year. But overall, I would say it's not that different from normal insomnia. It has a lot of the same causes. So a lot of, people's routines are changing. We don't have as much structure as we used to have in our days before, before gyms were shut down and before restaurants were shut down and we started not having to commute to work and things like that. We're not getting as much sunlight or activity. And sometimes we're just worried or tired of COVID. And so, all those things have kind of come together to create these sleeping problems for people. So, I'd say in general, it's, the reason why people are having insomnia, it's the same reasons as before. It's all those things, but it's just been kind of magnified since last year. And so when I'm working with people, most of the treatments and most of the things that we work on are still the same as normal insomnia. I think it just kind of, last year's kind of brought more attention to insomnia because so many people are new to it and dealing with it. So yeah. So long story short, I don't think it's not necessarily different from regular insomnia.
so when this first started, I mean, we were locked down March 16th here in New York City. And the first month, I didn't notice anything really different.
Hmm.
It almost felt like I was on vacation in a sense because I wasn't going to work. I wasn't doing my normal routine, which
Yeah.
is what you do when you're on vacation. month 2 was pretty much the same, but starting in month 3, my stress level went up.
Hmm.
My like cabin fever went up. The wondering when was something going to happen go up, and my sleep changed.
Hmm.
And I was sleeping, I was tired, so I was going to bed, but I was only getting a couple hours before my brain would wake up, and then I would like be up for an hour. So I mean, is that something, is that a symptom, would you say, of either insomnia or coronasomnia or that extra stress that is put on us?
Yeah, and I would say those, those are what causes the insomnia. So when you start having those worries, or you start, obviously, like you said, your routine kind of changed. So maybe you started, sleeping in a little bit later in the morning or going to sleep later. So that's happened to a lot of people. And then you kind of get over it. So you're like, I'm tired of the cabin fever. I'm tired of the isolation. And so those things can definitely lead to the insomnia. And so, it's a lot of times that's what, when you're lying in bed and you wake up in the middle of the night, it's because some of those thoughts and worries are starting to turn over in your head, and so you're starting to focus on those. And then, it can be harder to fall back asleep after that. So, insomnia basically comes down, it's so much of it is mental, and it comes down to how you think about sleep, and how you worry about sleep, and how you react to those wake ups at nights. In general, a lot of times if you do wake up and you kind of are able to just look past it and just stay calm and just kind of stay neutral about it, then you'll be able to fall back asleep. But if you start getting frustrated about it, and you start, thinking, why am I awake right now? What can I do to solve it? And that's when you start to see those sleeping issues, and that's when it starts to kind of snowball into a longer term issue, basically.
Let me ask you, I mean, I want to get a little personal here if it's all right.
Mhm.
You said you had issues with insomnia, and you helped yourself rather than getting a sleep coach, and that's where you fell into. So how hard was that? Because you basically self-diagnosed and self-medicated in a sense.
Mhm.
So how hard was it to kind of take what you were learning and apply it to yourself? I mean, it's almost hardest to train ourselves for things.
Yeah. I think that it was difficult because when you've been dealing with insomnia for so long, you have all these kind of behaviors baked in, and you have all these thoughts and negative sleep thoughts that you've had for a long time. So trying to get past those and to change those is difficult. But what I found is that once I started studying to become a sleep coach and to get my certifications, then the education part of it was huge, because then I started to recognize all the things that I've been doing over the years that were counterproductive to sleep. And so I could see, I am sleeping in later on the weekends. That's not helpful for me. I'm getting really worried about this part of sleep when I shouldn't be worried about it. There's nothing to be worried about. I should just relax. And, so when I started to be able to see through those behaviors and kind of recognize what I've been doing wrong, then I was able to, just change my routines and start to change my thoughts. With the worries, start to get into mindfulness to really stay calm about certain things. And so once I was able to get to that point, then it became easier, and I could kind of just, I was able to just, see, like I said, see what I was doing wrong, and take steps to fix it. So that's kind of when I'm working with people, that's what I do. Try to do the same thing, is give them that education, help them to see through the thoughts they're having that might be inaccurate, or just, causing more anxiety than they really need to be having.
Can I ask, you mentioned that you also work with kids. Do you also work with kids, or does your wife work with kids?
Just my wife and our partner
Just your
Sarah
wife.
too.
I watched one of her Instagram lives. She's great. I should have gotten you both in bed. That would have been fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
But
I think maybe
okay,
next time.
okay, maybe next time. But my question is, what you were talking about is very adult.
Mhm.
I mean, that kind of talking about mindfulness, I'm not sure how a child would, how is your help different for a child than it is for an adult? And what age do you start with a kid? I mean, what age do you find do you start?
So the pediatric sleep consultants, they start with, babies. So they start with pretty young babies, and then they're able to work all the way up through, like 12, 13 years old. So of course the approach is different because with babies, they're more just coaching the parents on, we need to instill consistent bedtimes, and we need to, this is how you deal with it if the baby keeps waking up in the middle of the night and needing this or whatever. So it's kind of coaching the parents, and kind of a lot of times it's relieving the parents' anxiety. And then as you get to, I would say probably, I mean, they could probably speak to this better than me, but as you get to, toddler age and up, then it is starting to work with the kids more and helping the kids, be able to kind of soothe themselves. So, if the child's having some sort of anxiety or they're worried about something, then it's taking little steps to, help the child. So with toddlers, it could be giving them a stuffed animal that makes them feel good or something like that. And then with the older kids, you can start to implement that mindfulness. So you can have them practice breathing, and you can practice how to stay calm. And so, that can actually be, I think they can start that as early as sort of, 3 and up maybe.
I remember you just said that it's a lot of it is calming down the parents,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes me wonder how much of the kids' insomnia is because the parents are, trying to get them to sleep,
Yeah,
and that puts a lot of stress. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I think
Let
you're
me
right
ask you
there.
something.
Yeah,
Huh?
I think you're right there. I think that, speaking as a parent myself, when your child's not sleeping or they're doing something that you don't understand, or they're waking up at a certain time, and you start to be like, I don't know why this is happening. I'm starting to get anxious about it, and then I think that can kind of extend onto the child too. So definitely, it's good to be able to coach the parents through that part of it too.
I mean, that's really interesting that coaching the parents to help the kids.
Hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you, I want to ask you what your toughest case has been so far, and what you did to resolve it, and did it get resolved?
Hmm. I would say, let's see. I would say my toughest case is probably somebody who they had been on, they'd been on sleep medications for 7 years. So they just, like nightly pill use, or, like marijuana edibles, or just some sort of sleep aid every night for years. So they were just so attached to it that, they thought that they couldn't sleep without it, even though, in the end it turned out that those pills and stuff weren't even really working for them that much. They just, they put all their trust and their belief in the pills. So when you've got somebody who has been in that cycle for so long, then you have to work to, kind of reduce their dependency on the pills and make them believe that they can sleep better on their own without any external substances. So we were able to get through it, and it took, a lot of work on their mindset about sleep, and it took gradually just reducing the pill dosage with their doctor's approval over time. Things like adjusting their sleep schedule, and then other just kind of, improving their sleep environment, things like that. So it's kind of a big approach to get to the end result. But, once we were able to prove to him that he could do it without the pills, then we were able to get through it. But that was a pretty tough one, just because, you have to break. There's some people who've been on sleeping pills for 15 years or more. So that's
I
always
mean,
difficult.
our society, we're very pill happy.
Hmm.
First, it's like I know people, they get a scratchy throat and they're off to the doctor.
Sure. Sure.
It's
And I would,
just kind of insane.
yeah, and I would say
But
that so when the pandemic started last year in like February through March, sleeping pill prescriptions went up by 15% in the U.S. And before
wow.
that, they'd actually been on the decline. So that just shows that people started having this coronasomnia, and then the first thing a lot of people did was go straight to the doctor and get sleeping pill prescriptions. So
Has there been, I mean, it's hard to work with family, I would think. You work with your wife, but have you ever had, have you ever had a client who was a family member? And did that change your perspective, or did it make you more sensitive, or was it just by the book?
well, so I've done a little bit of work with my brother-in-law, and it's a little bit more difficult actually. He's the first family member I've worked with, and it's just because some of the things that I would recommend to other people, it's kind of hard to like if I say, I don't know, it's hard to kind of step back and separate from just a random normal client. And so some of the things I might recommend to the normal client, I found that I had trouble recommending it, because it could be things like, you're going to have to you go to bed earlier sometimes, or you might have to, adjust this or that. And when, he's already a busy person, he has a lot going on. And so trying to make those recommendations to somebody who, just has a busy life is more difficult when you know them, I think. So,
Yeah,
yes, it's more difficult.
I would say, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Before we wrap up, um, what are you doing to stave off coronasomnia? Specifically because it is, I mean, 2020 was just unbelievable, and now
Hmm.
we're really, hopefully, just starting to get out of it. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, in New York, Friday they're starting to open up the restaurants again,
Hmm.
so it feels like, I mean, I don't know when we'll get back to where we were,
Hmm.
but how are you doing this? What are you doing? I mean, teas, are you setting up your room different? Did you have to do something special for you to get through this time?
Not really. But the reason for that is because so over the past few years, since I became a sleep coach, I've figured out what works for me, what I need to be doing to stay, sleeping better consistently. And so it's just been a matter of continuing to do those things. So I already have that established. Um,
Oh,
but with a lot of people who didn't have that prior to coronavirus, to the pandemic, or if they started to change their routines and stuff as during the past year, then for them that's when it's to either a show them what's the better way to do things and the better way
mhm.
to be dealing with it, and b to b to just kind of uh, maintain that even though things are weird. So keep your routines, keep your, wake up consistently as much as possible at the same time. Try to do things at near the same time every day, like eat your meals around the same time. It's just try to keep that consistency and that structure, even though we're in these strange times. And so,
Yeah, finding structure is hard.
it
It
is.
really is, especially
Hmm.
because I work from home
Hmm.
and there's so many distractions.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very challenging. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to add before we head out?
Um,
I know I want to say, please go to sleepably.com. Seth is there, his beautiful wife is there. It's a great website. These are great people, and they're doing really, really good work. So please go to sleepably.com. And if you have any questions or comments for Seth or for myself, at Sleepably or at Beanie Sleeper, and we'll figure out how to answer all these. I'm sorry I didn't answer any during the actual broadcast, but it's kind of far away and I can't really type. Um, so I just want to say thank you so much, Seth, for being my first guest and sleeping with me. I really appreciate it. You get my first notch in my bedpost. Goes to you.
I'm honored. I'm
And
honored.
I just want to say thank you and thank you to everybody. And I think that is a wrap.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot, Seth.